Hi guys, welcome back to Lex Alexas. Today I'm going to do a non-prediction video, but instead it's going to be a little bit of a prediction, but I'm going to give you my thoughts of the current promotion race of the 24-25 championship season. So I'm going to try my best to nail down my thoughts on the current four teams really pushing for that promotion. So two teams will be automatically promoted to the Premier League and one team will automatically go via the playoffs. But as we know from the drama of the playoffs, no team would want to go through the level of stress to try and get to the Premier League that way. They'd want it to get it secured, and to do that, the championship teams, we need to finish in the top two. And we're going to look at the current championship table and we're going to decipher which side is going to be more likely going to finish in that region of the table. So we'll be looking at the run-in, the current championship table, and my thoughts on that run-in, and I'll give you my final ideas of who I think will be going up from the championship this season after looking through all the games. If you guys like what I see, please smash the like button. It will be amazing if we can get to 50 likes for this video, and it will encourage me to do more ones because I'm planning to do one for the playoffs and also a debrief video on relegation as well. So I am got a couple of other video ideas down. Please do hit the subscribe button too. It really does help as we're getting ever so closer to 3,000 subscribers. It'll be amazing if we can get there. And I always got to thank you guys for the terrific support on this channel. And please also share the channel too. All three of these things are free to do and they really help. But without any further ado, let's decide who I think is getting promoted from the championship this season. So, for me, there are three teams really chasing for the top two at the moment. They are Leeds, Sheffield United, and Burnley. So, obviously, I mentioned four teams at the start, and Sunderland is the team currently in fourth. But honestly, those three teams for me are the three teams who I think are most likely going to go up. But it will be unfair of me not to talk about Sunderland at the moment, to speak about how brilliant they've been this season considering the improvement that they've had. But we should also look to see what running do they have, what chance do they have to maybe sneak in, and do they have any opportunities to sneak in. So let's find that out now. So as you can see, here is the current championship table, and I've got Sunderland highlighted here. They are currently fourth place in the table. You can see from their previous two results, they've not managed to win a game. That was a draw against Preston, a home draw against Preston, where they were quite disappointing in that game. They did manage to sneak a draw out of it, but then that last defeat, that 3-0 defeat to Coventry, was a devastating defeat for them. Of course, Coventry are just below them, and you can actually see from the positions of the table, they are closer to Coventry's points positions than they are in getting in the top two. So Sunderland are kind of perfectly poised in the middle of the play-off battle as it stands. So you can understand my decision for not really including them in the midst of promotion. But it is not impossible for them. So they need to better Sheffield United and Leeds by over 11 points. And for Burnley's case, it will need to be a little bit less. They've got a 9-point gap that they want to breach from Burnley. Of course, 10 points if they want to overtake them. But with 8 games left for each championship side, there is 24 points up for grabs. So you're thinking about the amount of points that Sunderland have to try and get over Leeds and Sheffield United. You're theoretically saying that Leeds and Sheffield United can only win half of the points for Sunderland to even have a chance to outdo their points totals. But at the same time, Sunderland need to match Leeds and Sheffield United when they're winning those games, but capitalise by 11 to 12 points, so ideally 4 wins. So they're going to rely on Leeds and Sheffield United losing 4 games each, considering in 38 games Leeds have only lost 4 and Sheffield United have only lost 6. You can see my reasoning there. I just think that's going to be very, very unlikely based on the current sample of games. But let's scroll down to see the last couple of championship games. So you can see later on in this week, Sunderland have a home game against Millwall, which I do think they could have a good chance to win that one. Millwall themselves are in a position right in the middle of the table in 11th place. As you can see, they're on 51 points. Top 6, you need to get 57 points as it stands. So they've got a 6-point gap. So I do think Millwall are within the chasing pack trying to get into the top 6. And they are, I wouldn't say fighting a losing battle, but it's going to be very difficult for Millwall to get in. West Brom away, though, is a very tough game for Sunderland. You've seen West Brom recently pick up some brilliant form at home at the Hawthorns. Tony Mowbray certainly keeping things simple in the style that they're playing, but they've not needed to be impressive on the eye. They've just been getting results when they've needed to, and West Brom certainly going strength for strength, and whilst they're currently 6th in the table with 57 points, I could really only see Middlesbrough and Bristol City as it stands being sides that they need to worry about. But Coventry, you know, if they can better their results, they could close them down, and actually that will relieve some pressure off them. So big game for West Brom. They'd be wanting to try and win that game, which just makes it even more difficult for Sunderland to get a result. And this right here is Sunderland's last 6 games. So this is game week 40 to game week 46. Norwich away. Norwich are currently a side in the mid-table, not really going to be doing amazing, unfortunately, this season, but Norwich has certainly been better at home than they have been away from home. Sunderland replacing Swansea. I think Swansea is a winnable game for Sunderland, but then you've got to consider the circumstances that Swansea may be in. Swansea may not be safe from the drop yet, so Swansea may be wanting to get a result. So you need to kind of apply the theory of where these teams are going to be in the table by the time that they play against each other. And we have certainly seen a pattern where we've got a weekend, and I think it's actually going to be only this week that is actually giving most teams a week break. I think the exception is Preston, who of course actually have the FA Cup this weekend, quarter-final against Aston Villa, and they've got to follow that up with a midweek game against Derby. So I do think for most sides they're going to have a week break going from this game week to the next game week, but I think from that game week it's going to be midweek weekend, and that fatigue could ultimately impact them, you know, especially with the Easter period. There's loads of games that do get jam-packed in that holiday. Bristol City away is a tough game. Bristol City are directly below Sunderland in the table, and they'll be desperate to try and get enough points to get into the playoffs. If I'm right in saying, and you've got to correct me if I'm wrong, Bristol City have always been on the cusp of getting into the top 6, but I think since getting promoted with Preston in 2013, Bristol City have never finished a championship season in the playoffs. If they have, it would have been one of their very, very early seasons. Sunderland playing Blackburn. I think Blackburn, got to be honest, with their current shade of form, unless a miracle turnaround from this international break and Ishmael has somehow figured out a way to make this Blackburn side play, I think that should be a game that Sunderland should look to win. But Oxford and QPR to finish is interesting. Both Oxford and QPR could find themselves fighting relegation on the final day. I know QPR have got a cushion, but QPR have got some very big games coming up, and besides below QPR have very winnable games, and actually have got to play, you know, against the teams in that bottom part of the table. And if QPR don't win those games, they find themselves in a very precarious relegation battle. And QPR could find themselves really desperate for 3 points on the final day. And I think by that point, realistically, if Sunderland are going to have a chance of getting into promotion, they have got to really narrow the gap within the first couple of game weeks to really put the pressure down. You can see here that in their head-to-head, they're not facing any of the top 3 again. They've just got some playoffs teams, some teams chasing for playoffs, and you've also got some relegated threatened sides as well. So Sunderland, right from the get-go, in my opinion, will need to make up some ground. If they cannot make up some ground in their first 2 or even 3 games, I think Sunderland will just be chasing too much to try and get into that promotion position. So it's going to be interesting. So that game against Millwall to start things off with Sunderland is a big stepping stone, and they'll be wanting 2, if not all 3 of the top 3 to drop points if they do pick up 3 points against Mills. So a lot needs to go Sunderland's way, and unfortunately I just think it's just too much for Sunderland to breach, unfortunately. So let's start talking through the first team, who I dare say may be the favourite of getting promotion from the Championship into the Premier League. I mean, with the current state of the Premier League, those Championship sides may not want to get out of the Championship, but either way, they'd want to get the opportunity to get the extra revenue into their club. Leeds United, I think for me, are the current favourites. 80 points they currently stand. Their last couple of results, pretty shaky. However, this international break could have been the perfect time just to allow them to reset and to go again. And I do think the run-in, as I'll show you in a minute, does put Leeds as the slight favourites. But we've seen Leeds in the past before be in these terrific positions before. Couple of dodgy results fly in and then they crumble. So, I mean, they got 90 plus points last season, and that could not get them promotion. I think, did they end up with 90 or 93 points in the end? I mean, to get 90 points plus and not get promoted is outrageous. And with the fact that Leeds are currently on 80 with 8 games left, you should be expecting Leeds to be getting 90 points plus again. They'd be wanting to average 1 point a game if they were to miss out on that. And I just think that's going to be unrealistic based on the games that they've got. So let's flip back to the screen here and let's go on to Leeds, and we can demonstrate the, I wouldn't say the easy run-in, but the run-in that could encourage a couple of Leeds United fans. And I'm really interested to know, Leeds fans, how are you feeling this season? Do you feel your team is ready to go back into the Premier League? I do think with a couple of seasons you were in the Premier League, you offered some really brilliant seasons, and it will be nice to see a historic team like Leeds get back up there. So the first 2 games intrigue me. So I know it's just jumped up like that. That's very rude. We've got Swansea. Big game. We've already spoken about Swansea, that they are in a position where they've got a bit of a cushion from the relegated threatened side. So you can see 44 compared to Derby and 38. But with that tough game against Leeds, and considering Leeds' incredible home form, which I'll just demonstrate here, you can see that Leeds by far have the best home form in the entire division. Only 1 defeat at Ellen Road this season, which came up against fellow promotion chasers Burnley, and that might be a very important fact to think about when we're discussing Sheffield United and Burnley later. So yeah, tough game for Swansea. I expect Leeds to win that one. Luton is interesting. So within a week or so, Leeds will have to face Luton away from home. So if we can have a quick snapshot of Leeds' away form, you can see here, bang, look at that. Quite considerably worse than Burnley and Sheffield United, which is a very interesting point to put across. 32 points, 3 defeats on the road and 8 draws, only 8 wins. Sheffield Wednesday actually have more away wins than Leeds do. So Leeds don't win all that often on the road. So 8 over 19, that is below 40% if I'm doing the maths correctly there. So this is going to be an interesting situation, and Luton of course fighting for their lives. I think that's actually going to be a really tough game for Leeds. That might be one of their tougher games. We then see here their final 6. So let's talk through it. Middlesbrough away. Again, I've spoken about Leeds' flaws on the road. That could be a tough game for them. Preston at home. I think Preston at this point don't really have anything to play for. They've got too much of a gap to get into the top 6, and I don't think they'll be going down either. You can see from the table, I mean, Preston, 14th, 47, 9 points off relegation, 10 points off the playoffs. I just think Preston are going to be bang slap in the middle. Oxford away. Can't underestimate Oxford. Oxford will be fighting for their lives. So I do think the away games for Leeds could prove to be their kryptonite, if anything. But Stoke at home. Stoke in a very difficult place currently. So Stoke, to remind you, they're on 39 points, only 1 point ahead of Derby, who have won 3 games on the bounce before this current international break. So this is going to make things very interesting. Bristol City. Big game, but Bristol City have certainly not been as good away as they have been at Ashton Gate, so I think Leeds could win that one. And then they end it on the final day against bottom of the league Plymouth Argyle, where Plymouth certainly have picked up way more home points than they have done with away points. In fact, I think Plymouth have only picked up 4 or 5 away points, meaning that 6/7 of their points Plymouth have come at home park. So you can see with the spread of games, it is 4 home games and 4 away games for Leeds. I actually would not be surprised if Leeds only pick up 1, if not 2, away wins out of those 4. So I do see opportunities that Leeds could drop points. It then brings the question whether Burnley or Sheffield United can capitalise. So I do think there will be an opportunity for Leeds to drop points. I would expect them to win at least 3, if not 4 of their home games based on how strong they've been in Ellen Road all season. So we're looking here at mid-90s for Leeds. I'm saying 95-ish. I think Leeds could get at this stage of the season. So it will mean Sheffield United and Burnley will have to win quite a lot of their games as well. But now let's actually jump across to Sheffield United. And of course, Sheffield United would be top of the table at this stage if they didn't have their points deduction. So 25 wins out of 38 games. Chris Wilder doing an impressive job again on Sheffield United. So next 2 games, pretty crucial. So you've got Coventry. Big game, they're the informed side, but I do think Sheffield United can get a result. Even if it's a draw, they should be able to get something. Oxford away again. I did mention this with Leeds as well. You cannot underestimate Oxford at this stage of the season. I think when we look into the final 6 games, this is really going to determine for me if they can overtake Leeds. And one game stands out. Of course, on the 21st of April, Sheffield United have got to go to Turf Moor. That could be the very game that defines the promotion. Millwall, so again, we're seeing a top 4 facing Millwall at home. Plymouth away. So Plymouth playing, I mean, it's quite bleak for Plymouth considering they're in a relegation picture, but they've got Leeds and Sheffield United still to play. Sheffield United against Cardiff. I expect them to get a result, but Cardiff are fighting for their lives. Stoke also fighting for their lives. I think Blackburn at home is their nicest game. I think by that point, Blackburn would have nothing to play for. I think the gap between them and the playoffs will be a bit too great at this time. That's assuming their form is going to continue, their poor form to exaggerate, is going to continue going into this form of games. Stoke will be interesting. Stoke will be tough depending if they have survived at this stage. If they've not survived at this stage and they're fighting for their lives, it could be a tough game for Sheffield United. But one thing to bring attention, as I did have a very quick snapshot of their forms, if we're looking at Sheffield United's home form, it is, not as good as Leeds is, but it is second best after all. 13 wins out of 19 with only 3 defeats all season. But this is the thing that stands out. Look at their last 5 away games. 5 consecutive wins on the road. If you can turn up in your away games as efficiently as this, you have got such a big chance of going up. And considering the tough away games on paper for Sheffield United, I think that does make things interesting. But again, it is 4 home games and 4 away games left for the Blades. But I do think they find themselves in a decent position. But the last team I'm going to then delve into is Burnley. So we already know with one of their last 6 games, it's going to be at Turf Moor against Sheffield United. Now, the big advantage for Burnley, as you can see from their league position, they do not lose many games. In fact, only 2 defeats all season. It's insane the amount of games that Burnley have managed to win. 21 is a decent amount, but to only lose 2 games at this stage is amazing. I don't actually know the record of the least amount of defeats in a championship season, but if Burnley continue going their way, they should surely beat that. So Burnley at home, not as great, but you can see that they actually had a really good run at home. Just ended with that draw against West Brom. But you can see here, look at this really big stat. Burnley are the only side to still remain unbeaten at home. That could be a big, big plus when they have to host Sheffield United. Burnley away from home, very strong. In fact, only 1 point below Sheffield United. And could easily have been topped had they not drawn those games against Portsmouth and against Preston. Those 2 0-0 draws certainly proving to be a little bit costly. It would have seen Burnley actually top of the table had they not dropped those points. So now let's look at their games. So Bristol City and Coventry, that to me rings a O signs, because those are 2 teams fighting for playoffs. So they have got a massive amount to play for. So Coventry is certainly the tougher one, I think. So Coventry, the informed side, a win against Burnley should surely give them a really big cushion from the other sides around them. But Bristol City will be a tough one, but I would likely see Burnley get 3 points here. Last 6 games is going to be interesting. So Derby, think they could get a result there. Burnley playing Norwich, I do think they could get a result. Watford at this stage, I don't think we have anything to play for. They should get a result. I will speak about the Sheffield United game, but then they ended with QPR and then Millwall. That's interesting. So QPR, we've mentioned them already. They could be in a stage where they will be desperate to try and get results. So we can see with QPR, they've actually got a really tough run to the end. So for a relegation point of view, which I'll be doing soon, QPR certainly will be in the conversation that they have a really tough run from now. But knowing how strong Burnley have been at home, I'm looking at their home games thinking as near home bankers. But then you've got the Burnley-Sheffield United game. And I'm going to select this one independently because this one to me is so important. I want to see all the last statistics that we've ever had with this. So you can see here, I mean, the contrast here in defences, 11 goals conceded. Sheffield United have actually conceded double that, in fact over double, 28. And both have scored nearly the same. So I'd say Burnley on the more rounded side at the moment. Burnley did beat Sheffield United. In fact, they beat them very comfortably in the end by 2-0. Obviously, they played against each other at the Prem. Burnley doing the double over Sheffield United. And then in the Championship, obviously, we had that 5-2. That was an impressive win for Sheffield United. But then Burnley following it up very professionally as they ended their amazing season under Vincent Kompany there. And then they kind of split equals in that Premier League one there. It's been, as a whole, Burnley looking like that they are the favourites for that game. And that to me is very crucial. So if Burnley can find themselves overtaking Sheffield United by game week 44, that's going to be massive, because in their last 2 games, they'll find themselves thinking, right, win their last 2 and they're up. QPR could be a banana skin if they are fighting for survival, but Millwall for me should feel a bit of a home banker. I don't think Millwall will have a lot to play for at this stage. It's a big game, isn't it? And if we go back to Sheffield United to remind us of their last couple of games after they faced Burnley. So Sheffield United will be wanting to be ahead of Burnley by the time that they play Burnley, of course, but if they're not, then that's going to make things very pressurising for the Blades. Stoke and Blackburn, similarly again, I expect them to win their last game, but then away from a relegated threatened side. So the narrative is very similar from both of these sides in terms of their last 2 games. So the relegation battle, I think, is going to have a really big impact actually on the promotion sides. And certainly the relegation battle is big this year. There's so many teams who could drop down from the championship, and teams I will be really sad to potentially see get relegated from this stage. But honestly, it has not helped my case to decide who I think will be going out of the championship, because it is so incredibly close. Okay, so now I've looked through all 3 of these sides' run-ins. This is so incredibly tough. So I've got to get a top 3 somehow, and I've got pros and cons for both of them. I could see potentially a Leeds collapse. We've seen it in the past, and maybe they don't have the mental bottle to sustain that pressure. Sheffield United have had the experience of getting out before, but then that game against Burnley, against the side who's the only side who has not lost a home game, can Sheffield United pull an amazing result and get something there? It does feel a lot is going to be on that game. But then again, both sides could help themselves if Leeds drop out. So both, I think, will be wanting Leeds to drop out, and both will be probably wanting to go up together. But personally, based on what I've seen, my choice for 3rd place, and please don't be angry at me, and I'll be interested to hear your predictions in the comments as well and hear your thoughts. For me, my 3rd place team is Sheffield United. I just think they are a little bit on the disadvantage of that game against Burnley. I think Burnley could nick it by a 1-0 or something like that. And especially if Burnley were ahead of Sheffield United going into that game, that could really put the game to bed. And Sheffield United will just be hoping for Leeds to drop points. Whilst I think Leeds have maybe 1 or 2 banana skin games, I think their home games are certainly looking a bit more like home bankers at the moment, and I do think it's going to be very difficult for Leeds to drop out of the position if they can accrue 15 points in their last 8 games. 2nd place, in my opinion, and the teams going up, I think we're going to see Burnley 2nd, and for me, going up is Leeds as champions. So I feel it will be something towards the lines of Leeds 95, Burnley 92, and Sheffield United 91. That's what I think we might see. But honestly, again, this is only my thoughts and predictions based on the run-ins. And I wouldn't be surprised if I get all 3 of these positions wrong. But at the same time, that's part of the fun of predicting this stage of the championship. With only 8 games left, there's still so much football to be played and so much to play for. We could see absolute fireworks. And for what I hope with that game against Burnley and Sheffield United, it still puts the pressure of the promotion race going into the final day, because that will make things unbelievably dramatic as they unfold. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap it up for today. A very different type of video, but I've been meaning to do a non-prediction related video for a while. If you guys enjoyed it, please smash the like button. It really does help the growth of this channel. Please do hit the subscribe button too. It really does help. And please share the channel too. All 3 of these things are free to do, and they really do help the growth of this channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for joining in this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.